Hello! Can I get a miracle? No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for being here. Can we just give it up for all of you? Like, for real. How many of you would love to have more peace in your life? Yeah. How about a little bit more healing? If anyone's willing to go there. Yeah, a couple of you willing to go there? Are we all healed here? Are we all perfect? How about a little more purpose? Anybody want more purpose in their life? Anybody want to feel like you're not overwhelmed at times? Does anyone feel spiraling at times? Yeah. Well, the woman you're going to hear from today on this show has gone to work on herself. And she is a dear friend that I met in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And 3 years ago, she called me and said, "My heart is stirring. God is stirring me up. I need to go to work, and I'm going to write a book." And this woman, I have deep respect for. She is not only one of the most sought-after life coaches, she is a regular on the news here in Minneapolis. She's transformed so many lives, but she's had her own battles. You see, she grew up in the war in Bosnia. She had a horrific upbringing, and she'll share a little bit of that with us today. But she's also battled many miscarriages, and she's fought through it all. And she's been on a journey just like all of us. And now she has 2 beautiful boys and a loving, amazing husband. And this, my friends, is my deep friend that we get to connect with today, Jasna Burza. Please stand on your feet. Welcome her. I'm so proud of you. Give it up. This book you're holding is... I love you.
Mike, can I stop for a second? I have to. Can we please, just for a moment, I don't know if you're living under a rock, but this beautiful soul just got engaged to Jay.
Aww. Happiness.
Huge congratulations to you both.
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
We're here.
Oh, thank you all so
Yes.
much for being here.
So tell us all, what made you write Healer in Heels?
In March of 2020, when the pandemic hit and the world seemed to fall apart, people would call me and they were really losing their cool. And for whatever reason, I felt so deeply grounded. And you and I have talked about this. I'm like, I just don't understand what's the big deal. And they're like, it's the global pandemic, Jasna. That's what the big deal is. But I just kept being called to speak on TV, on magazines, on conferences, to bring a sense of peacefulness. And I really thought about this long and hard because I was affected. I lost all my corporate contracts, all income overnight. My husband lost his job. So we were entrepreneurs, a household with no income. So joyful, isn't it? In the midst of the most uncertainty we have had in such a long time. And still, I felt so grounded, so peaceful. So we did the best thing we could possibly do. We packed up our kids and we went to Boundary Waters and camped for 3 months.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I kept writing. And I felt like I have had a lifetime of work, because I really believe that things that we experience harden us, they mold us, they help us to fulfill our purpose, become the best version of ourselves. And really, when I say sometimes I will read parts of the book, I'm like, who wrote this? Not I. It felt like I was channeling. It felt a true download of inspiration. And the book was written in the early mornings. sometimes on the canoes, sometimes in the middle of the forest. But it was a thing that needed to come through.
I'm so glad you wrote it. It's so good. And not only are you going to love the chapters and what you learn, but I love that you have activities in the book. So you actually read and then you do, which is, for me, I'm like, this is so good. Like forest bathing, right? Can we talk
All
about
the things.
all the things, like the mirror exercise.
All of it.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, this is what I think of self-help. We live in a world of self-help. Emily and I are in the world of self-help. We have been in that world for over a decade.
Yeah.
Very often it feels like a really beautiful shower, but then I get really sweaty the next day. It doesn't stick, right? Or it feels like I'm constantly delegating my power out to others and I'm constantly improving. There's always the next thing to work on. So the exercises are there because they work. Mm-hmm. They work not because they work for me. They work for thousands of people. Historically, they have worked for millions of people in the ancient civilizations, for mystics throughout millennia, right? Mm-hmm. And also, really important to me, they're all science tested. So there's an incredible research behind forest bathing. It's like, oh, it feels so good to frolic in the woods. It's actually so much more than that. We now know that our entire physiology changes when we walk in the woods. Not just physically what happens, but there's the changes in our thinking, in the way our neurons are firing, the ways that our soul is nourished. And the way the research is talking about the connectiveness of trees alone and how if they're communicating, how can we assume that they don't know that we're there, they're not communicating with us in that field? So then I go back into quantum physics and say, well, let's back that up and let's really explain why that is so, because I feel like in the world of personal development, there's so much empty,
Band-Aids.
just manifest Band-Aids.
Yeah.
And people don't fully understand
This is what drives me, BS crazy, right? Like, it's just like, I feel like it's a lot of Band-Aid talk. Mm-hmm. And if we don't, as my fiance calls it, stir the hurt, like we have to look at what's really going on, because otherwise we just mask it and we just keep going. And I think for a lot of us, including me, like until the pandemic, it was like, just keep going, just be busier, just, and we don't actually look at what's actually causing us pain and those repeated cycles. And what I love in the book, you share you were on this quest for healing. Can you expand on that? Like, what did that look like for you? How did you heal? And then you really came into the agreement that you can heal yourself.
Sure. Well, I think it started, first of all, the concept of healer and heals. By the way, lots of amazing heals here tonight. Yeah. Please take pictures and tag me because I'm having all the feels.
I know, so good.
We are the ones that we have been waiting for. And I felt like from when I came into this country, I was a refugee and talk about the war trauma, and I did not have a happy childhood. So I came with like any mental health disturbance that you can think of that child should never had. So I went through this process. I'm like, I'm not okay, but I'm going to find my way. And I kept doing that even through the 9 miscarriages that I've had. I'm like, okay, God is like, 3 is not enough. Let's do 5. How about 7? Because I think that was the thing I think that broke me the most, because it was the one thing that I was supposed to do as a woman, and it was the thing that I wanted the most. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't have it. So I'm like, after the 6th miscarriage, I'm like, I really am going to put everything away, and I'm going to double down on me. So I went to work. For 6 months, no one saw me. I got every book from the library, and I just read all of it voraciously. And I think implementing these things, especially looking at the science, at the things proven that have been working for millennia for people, that we don't have to reinvent. And so throughout all of this, every time I picked up a good book, I was healing. Every time I came to a gathering like this, I was healing. Mm-hmm. Every time I had a good cry, I was healing.
That's right.
So it's not this one pivotal moment where the skies open up. It's along the way we all do it. but it's not an easy path. And we have to do the work, which is why the exercise is in the book. We can watch Spartans on TV and, all we want, but we're never going to get those bodies unless we actually put in the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. So well said. I love in the book, you talk a lot about the home that you've created for yourself, which is so beautiful. And I really, as I was reading it, I'm like, people really need to understand that no matter what happens at work, no matter what happens if you're a teacher, if you're a nurse, no matter what happens in the outside world, you can come home and create this sacred space where you can come back into your energy, into love, into all the feelings that we so desire to feel. Can you expand on that? And can you also share the prayer that the family says? And I just love all this. I think it's so amazing.
Yes. So what Emily is referring to is this concept that all spaces are living spaces. There is no such a thing as an empty space. Our homes, places of worship, our places of work, they carry information. So this is a little bit sciencey, but what I love about this is that I wrote it so my 10-year-olds could understand it. Quantum physics, Jasna, not interested. Well, you're going to be interested when you read this because you can apply it to your everyday life. So in terms of thermodynamics, we can actually feel the energy in every room that we walk in. Mm-hmm. Have you ever walked into a room and had goosebumps like something's bad here, right?
Yeah.
So you're not crazy, you're feeling that energy. So that energy in space is being imprinted. And for me, it really comes from living during the war. My father was in a concentration camp. Full war is raging on. We now are back home from a refugee camp. We still don't know where our dad is. So we're still on humanitarian aid. But my mom, every Saturday morning, would wake us up and she would blast music and she's like, we're all cleaning. And we're like, what the hell? It's war. Like,
right.
What's wrong with you? And what she taught me was that she had dominion over one thing. She was fearing for the life of her children. She didn't know if she was going to be raped the next day because soldiers were coming into homes and just doing whatever the hell they wanted. And she didn't know where her husband was. So we were all in this existential threat, but she always had crisp white sheets. I know it's ridiculous, but when she would go into those sheets, we would have like horrible days, sometimes no food to eat. And she's like, isn't that the best? We're like queens and kings.
Oh.
So it was this incredible thing that the act of washing the sheets and pressing them with the iron and putting that love and creating that space changed the energy of our home. My mom made sure that we were not screwed up. And that is the power a woman or a man has in a household that we all have, right?
Yeah.
Ooh. So all of the spaces matter, the energy matters. So my mom is insane about cleaning and having everything because it creates energy. And in the book, I talk about something called negentropy, which is order. And when that order in our spaces is reflected in our everyday lives, so if you're having horrific day at work and you come home and you're full on entropy, you're coming into, chaos, lists, that's just going to be inflamed even more.
Right.
And then you become a tornado ripping everything on your path. But if you have a set of clean sheets, you can have the shittiest day ever. Mm-hmm. And you can come home and say, oh, this feels good.
Yeah.
This is good. There's one thing to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
So what we do in our spaces is I bless my food. You and I both do. We bless the objects in our house, and we have signs all over our house that I believe that intention carries and imprints the information. So in our living room, we have a sign that, please be responsible for the energy that you bring into this room.
Ooh, who wants that sign? Yeah.
Well, there's a sign in the book. You can all download it. I created the posters.
Okay,
you can all download and have. And I said, if we're all here responsible, everyone who comes into this home is blessed and guided by the great unseen. we love you, Adi, Jasna, Mama, and Adi, Aidan and Adi. So that is kind of our intention for everyone who comes into our home. And I just believe, I really believe, if there's ever anything, one thing that someone can take from this book is this power of creating an oasis within our own dominion. One room. Mama's out there where there's like toys and crap everywhere. Find a room, a closet that's yours, and that's a coherence closet.
Yeah. Ooh.
A sacred space.
A sacred space. That's the prayer room. That's where it goes down. And I love this so much because no matter what is happening in your world, you can go to that room, close the door, put on some heart music. I love like all the, it's frequency. Everything we're talking about is frequency, right? And going in there and cry if you have to cry, pray if you want to pray. Like that is your healing spot. And it's like, it's so funny. I was talking to a friend and it was like, this is like the 900th therapist she's going to, and I love therapy. I'm a huge advocate of it and all the things. But I was like, have you tried like praying? And have you tried, she keeps wanting to just Venmo her way to the, you know what I mean? Like who, like what's the next escapism? And I've done that too, right? I've been so guilty. And sometimes it's like, and you say this, like the answers are in us. We just have to listen and be willing to go there, to that dark place.
I think one of the most dangerous things that I see out there after being in this industry for 14 years is proliferation of growth and self-help and our willingness to delegate our power to others. I seek out coaches and healers, everyone who will help me on my path. But at some point, you have to understand that you are it. You are the one that you have been waiting for. And I think if we remove the noise, the whole concept of coherence, right, and incoherence, if we remove the noise of the world that brings in information that we're bombarded with, whether we like it or not, there is no escaping it. It has to be a conscious choice to hit the pause button and say, okay, instead of delegating my power out to others who anoint themselves as worthy, I'm going to take one step today. I'm just going to say a prayer.
Yeah.
Let me open Healer and Heals and use the prayer that Emily says when she starts her day, because that's in the book. Emily prays every single day, multiple times a day. It's actually proven by science that it works. We can call it foo-foo, right?
Yeah.
And prayer is for those who are atheists and those deeply devout and religious, because prayer is not about some deity out there. It's about what it does to us when we pray. It changes us physiologically, mentally, spiritually, and alleviates everything. It's kind of like just lifts this dark cloud.
Absolutely. And, for anybody listening to this, or we have a live audience here in Minneapolis, so anybody an achiever in the room or listening, like this is the last thing we want to do because we feel like it's a waste of time. It's like I'm not ticking something off. I need to do this, I need to do that. When in reality, it's like if you slow down to speed up and you ask God for answers, it's so much better. Trust me on this, because again, I was on that cycle of like do. And it felt weird when I started to change my practice. So I stopped being on social all the time, but I started hiring some of it out, or I just don't go on social some days, or I go on, then I get off, right? And then we have a practice, and my partner's really good at this. He's crazy about it, like no phones, morning routine, meditation. We're talking to God, we're receiving, we're asking. It's a whole deal. But I will tell you that it took me a long time to not feel like I was wasting my time. I'm just admitting this to you. But once it got ingrained in me, it's like I crave it. I crave that peace. And I feel like I've opened up a whole different pathway that I just didn't have for years. And it's the connection to God. And so I want to encourage all of you, if you feel that way. That's how I felt for so long. And I feel like you've been so good at this. You get up at what time in the morning?
4 a.m., baby.
What the heck? She watches the sunrise and
All the things.
whoa. I mean, that's amazing.
Well, it's a practice.
Yeah.
It's a practice. And I think that I don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. I mean, who does, right? No one does. But it is the only time when I'm alone.
Yeah.
And what happens at 4 a.m., my husband makes me coffee, gives me a kiss, and he's off to work.
Wow.
Because he's an early bird,
Yeah.
too. It's an incredible time to commune with something in the air. There's no cars, sound of cars. There's no noise. There's no TV. No one's calling me at 4 a.m. It is a holy hour. So it is a practice. You don't have to wake up at 4, but maybe you wake up, if you normally wake up at 7 and rush,
Yeah.
wake up at 6:45.
And have that time.
And have that time.
Yeah.
And going back to, there's a practice in the book called 80-20.
Yes, I'm so obsessed. Okay, no, this was like I was like, yes. Okay, can we please talk all about 80-20?
Well, I had, just like you, I really struggled. So I'm an immigrant, and I have this thing that I always say, I will outwork anyone.
Yeah.
Like, if you ever need
On a
anything
treadmill.
done, call me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I do believe in hard work, and nothing is below me. I will scrub floors.
Yeah.
I'll do all of it.
Yeah.
And I'll do it faster than others. Just saying, one of those. It's like
Yeah.
when I had to.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll run
majority of
circles around people.
Right?
In LA, it's like
you have to.
Minnesota work ethic.
That's
Okay.
it. And I think that I felt like every time I was like not working, I really loved trees. So even when I was little, I would get lost on a hill near my house with Linda, my dog, and I was among the trees. Like, I was always called to the trees. And I felt like, okay, I'm here, I have very limited time to work. I can't be frolicking in the trees. I need to make money. And I felt like every time I'm hugging trees or going through a forest, that I'm really missing out. Or I should be catching up to Emily.
Yeah.
All joking aside,
Yeah.
there was this pressure. And I said, what if I think that every time I'm in the forest, I'm making money?
Oh.
I'm going to try it for a week. So I did. And what happened was absolutely incredible. I would go and dedicate my time to actually be in the forest and do all of those things that brought me grounding and resonance and joy. Prayer, candles, dancing with my kids, going in the forest, the morning sun. And then all of a sudden, money started just coming in and wasn't even working. I'm like, well, this really works. This is the law of manifestation at its best. But what was really happening is I was entering the frequency, the resonance. There was no pressure. There was no hustle. There was no striving.
Yeah, because it feels forced, and when it feels forced, it feels awful, right? You ever tried to like date someone and you're forced? It's awful, right? Thank God that's over. Okay, but it's the worst. And when you're striving, that's how it feels. And for my power females that want to be more in your feminine, this is how you get more in your feminine as well. Okay, carry on.
Yeah,
80-20.
and 80-20 is not an exact representation of time. It's not like I'm in the forest 80% of my life
Okay.
frolicking. Like, that's
I was
just like
like, okay,
wrong
girl.
representation.
like-
But I think it's an energetic
Yeah.
focus. That comes first, the big stones first. And then I do everything else. And Emily, when I do, you and I have talked about this so many times. My husband knows that I'm nicer. My kids know that I'm nicer. Everything flows more effortlessly. And then, yes, as a result, everything works out because I'm aligned and I'm in a resonance with that which I want to attract. And I'm just going to end with this. There's a beautiful quote by Rumi, that you're seeking is seeking you. And for years, I was like, well, what does that mean? It's like, well, I like to say it, but what does that really mean? Well, quantum physics explains it. It's the law of resonance. It's not a law of attraction. It's a law of resonance. You have to be in resonance with the thing you want to have. Peace, love, whatever that is. So when you align yourself, it is effortless. And I want to be very clear. I don't have this perfected. I still lose my cool. I still sleep in. I still swear. I do all of those things. So I am not a guru or a teacher. I'm a fellow traveler who has done extensive research and tried every one of these things.
So good. Oof. Okay, you're not perfect though. So you have to practice this daily.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a practice.
So when you talk about, how to raise your resonance, your frequency, you talked a lot about physical activity, meditation, music, recontextualization. What is that?
Recontextualization is this aspect that my mom taught me. It's actually a spiritual tool, but it is invoking something called the observer effect in quantum physics. Who knows about observer effect? We now know that if we look at the particles and the mere act of observation changes their behavior. Let me say that again. So everything in here, this empty space, Emily and I, this chair, everything in the world is made up of atoms. If we go down and we break those things, we go to the tiniest particle that we know, Higgs boson, that was discovered in 2012 and won the Nobel Prize in physics. We now know that it's simply our mere observation changes its behavior. And this is very confusing for the physicists because there are rules and there are laws. And they're like, this is crazy. Human consciousness observing something changes behavior. So I think the recontextualization is what my mom did. Here is, we live in a hellhole. We don't know if we will survive, but we have clean sheets. That's recontextualization. We don't have a lot of food, but look, I made this toast and I split it into 6 pieces. Now we have the cutest little toast that we will ever have. Yeah. That's looking at the world as if it's working for you, not against you. You shift that energy. Ooh. So fear, frustration, anger resonate and calibrate very low. This can be tested through kinesiology. It can be tested through a variety of the things that physicists are working on and have been working on for a decade. Pay attention to the space because it's coming up with some absolutely mind-blowing research that I think really does matter. And if we just let go, the first step is just completely let go. So whether it's dance, whether it's go work out or do yoga or meditate, there is no one prescription. It's not like, Erin, you have to meditate. There's no such thing. She's like, no, girl, that's not for me right now. Yeah. Do what you can, dance it out, shake it off, and then you will enter the higher frequency, which is the law. And when you do that, you will feel lighter.
Hold up. Are you ready to take your brand to another level? And maybe you might be thinking, brand? I don't have a brand. Oh yes, you do have a brand. And chances are, if you're listening to this right now, you also have a message that you are ready to get out into the world. Well, if that is you and you want to take things to a whole nother level, when let's just face it, it's required in 2023 if you want to stand out in a noisy market, then I want to personally invite you to the It Factor Bootcamp Branding Edition. Now, this is not just any boot camp. What this is a couple days of you away from your crazy busy life, and we have curated 2 days of absolute brand integration. We are going to be helping you identify your brand message. We're going to be showing you how to create next level content, have a plan that matches whatever it is that you're selling and who you're selling it to. We're bringing in some of the best PR people in the world to teach you how to self-promote and then also how to stand out and to really create that halo effect, what I like to teach on. There's so many other details happening, but what this is an intimate 2 days with myself and my partner Jake, and I promise you, by the time you leave, you will feel equipped and totally ready to take your brand to another level. If this sounds like something you're interested in, then join me in Southern California towards the end of July. Send me an Instagram right now at It's Emily, ITSEMILY. Send me the word bootcamp and I will send you all the details. But act fast because we are releasing this week and we are limiting it to 50 spots so we can intimately work with you and also network. So if this is something you're into, go to my Instagram now and send me the word bootcamp.
You talk a lot about this in the book, about like keeping up with the Joneses, and I mean, it's the culture we live in, right? We're on social media a lot, and all you see is people's highlight reels, and it's this manic. It can feel manic at times, and it takes 1 second and you forget how much you actually have, because you're comparing yourself to someone you'll never be, and they're only showing you like a glimpse of the highlight of the cute curated thing at their house or whatever. You get me, right? And it's this fight and this battle, and that's why you have to always, I say, come back home. So this is what I always say to Jake when I feel like off kilter. I'm like, I gotta come back home. There's too much noise going on. There's like, I need that time by myself, and that's where the magic comes from. That's where your power comes from. What would you say to someone though that's like, I'm scared to go home? Because this is true. You and I have done work for a long time. But there's a lot of people out there that it's just constant numbness. And then how do you find your purpose when you feel numb? What does that look like?
You just take the first next step that feels good today. We can't go, driving a 300 miles an hour car and stop overnight. We would crash or spin over and completely lose. How do we stop? How do we slow down? One step at a time. So there's many moments where I caught up in the chaos of life. I'm just going to set an intention that today is not as crappy as it normally is. Maybe that's all you do.
Yeah.
Maybe all you do is drink a little bit of extra water. So there's a lot of practices that are not going to work for people. They're like, that doesn't work for me.
Right.
We have become detached from ourselves, and it's the saddest thing there is. We're worshiping and glorifying people out there who do not even have our best interests.
Right.
You and I both know that very well.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a lack of integrity at the leadership, and I think it hurts us. It's appealing to our lowest common denominator, our lowest desires. So if you're feeling numb and overwhelmed and just not okay, you just do the first next step. Mm-hmm. And I think slowing down can feel so disorienting, because then what do I do? Who am I without the nose? I cannot not do.
I know.
What the heck, right?
Yeah, straight up.
So you have to find a way to adjust along the way, because it's not a linear process, and it is not overnight, but it's the most important work that one can do.
Oh, yeah, so good. I'm like, drop the mic. Let's go. Yeah, and it's like bathing. We do it every day. Do you guys do that every day, hopefully? Okay, and we're dealing with, and this is constant. And in the book, she talks a lot about the law of environment. And obviously we talked about the home, but how much does that go into effect with the people in your life, the friends in your life, the people that you're letting speak into you, right? It's major.
It's huge. And I think it's amplified by the fact that we're glued to our devices, and we're following the people who are emanating that kind of energy. So if I follow you, I'm going to feel much better, right? Versus someone who is not making me feel great. And I think I talk about this in the book. I think we all know when something doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. We just don't want to say it or admit it.
Right.
And very often I think that we are running away from the thing that hurts us the most. I've had friends who are just burying themselves in the next and all of that, when really the real issue is that they're not happy in their marriage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think focusing on all of those things, focusing on your home, come back home. And that can be as simple as brushing your teeth. I hope everyone does it on a daily basis. And if you're doing it, connect that act of brushing your teeth every morning with an intention for your day. It's as simple as that. Maybe that's the only thing you ever do. Extra points.
Yeah. Yeah, extra points.
You can imprint your toothpaste with love. You'd be like, okay, Jasna, you're really going out there right now.
Yeah.
It's thermodynamics, baby. If you read the book, you'll understand. Every object that you have, you can imprint. So all of the books that you are getting today have been blessed by me. Every time I signed it, I blessed it. Right? And before that, I meditated and prayed. So that energy does transfer. That energy transfers through the podcast, because Emily and I, we prayed before, right? And it wasn't give me something. It wasn't a prayer of petition. It was how may we be of service. Mm-hmm. So every object in your house goes back to creating your home, coming back home to yourself, but also to your space. Mm. You can imprint objects in your home. Say, okay, today little flower, I'm just going to imprint it with peacefulness. Mwah. And if you're in a good feeling, you are changing the deltops of that flower, which then when you come back home and you're not feeling that great, that flower is going to sustain you, because that flower can still maintain that imprint, but we can't. So we have to work on cleaning up that energy. And I think Emily being disciplined about it.
Oh, yeah. And I think of like discipline being a disciple, because I truly think like, or I know this to be true. You know, we're meant to serve other people, and so we must first take care of ourselves. And so I have a good relationship with discipline. I love discipline for the right reasons, right? And I think of that like, let's fill me up, let's heal my dark places so I can serve another human. You know, and that's really what this life is all about. And that's where true fulfillment comes in. And there's a chapter on the book about purpose. And we had, you know, some prolific people in here just a couple hours ago that, you know, to societal standards, they're major money players, we talk about them for a minute, but like I was pleasantly surprised that they come back to purpose and love and doing this for humanity versus self, you know?
An interesting observation of everyone that I was talking to was that commonality of purpose, forgiveness, love one another. So I was surprised, because when I was talking to Governor Mark Dayton, I did not expect for him, to be that vulnerable to talk about all of the things.
It's in the book.
He has never talked about.
It was so beautiful.
It was so moving.
Yeah.
And a deeply spiritual man, which I did not know. And he talks about his German shepherds, and he's talking about all these things. And I really wanted to tell him, like, or ask him about this concept of polarization. We're hating on each other. Mm-hmm. I'm like, how do we, you know, in Jasna fashion, how do we love everyone, Mark? And Mark's like, well, to love is tough. But we can respect the humanity of everyone. And here's a man who spent over 30 years in the public eye. And when I talked to him about, like, well, what did you want to get out? I mean, he went against his entire family. He could have had a very easy, cushy life. But he was led by purpose, which was really beautiful. And that's how you persevere. And I think create a lasting change. And same with Brahm, who runs a $1 billion company. And
Lifetime, some of you probably go there.
CEO of Lifetime.
Yeah.
And what was amazing, I walk into his office and I have 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, Jasna, get all of your questions in 15 minutes.
Get it in.
2 hours later, we're still talking. And we were not talking about leadership or business. We were talking about love. I was talking love at a billionaire. And he's like, all you need is love. And you need, you know, past all of the money and all of the success and all of the striving. It's like, I went through that phase. It's nice to have it.
Yeah.
But then what? Who do you have in your life? Mm-hmm. And the sense of forgiveness. And he is really adamant about this. We are canceling each other. Doesn't matter what you identify with today. We should be loving one another, because love is a boomerang.
Yeah, that's right. Amen.
Hate is a boomerang. Whatever we put out there, so this is the law. When I learned this from my spiritual teacher, he said, let me put it in the simplest way. Whatever you say about someone else, you're saying about you. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Never saying anything not nice ever again. And I still do. But I'm aware when I do.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, that was not nice.
Yeah.
We're going to do better next time.
Yeah.
And so I think that when you hear these things from you look at your purpose, you look at the lives that you're changing every single day. It is not about us. It is about why are you here? I don't believe that we're here to consume and move through life just to get to some idea of retirement.
Right.
It is about how do you create an impact. You have to discover that you are just as capable as Da Vinci, as Walter Russell. Walter Russell said, mediocrity is self-inflicted, genius is self-bestowed.
Oh.
Gave me chills when I read that. I'm like,
Straight
what do you
up.
mean I anoint myself as a genius? Like, you're damn right you do. And I think that so many of us right now are dumbing ourselves down with what we are consuming every single day. I beg of all of us, read a book that's going to lift you up a little bit higher. Watch a programming that's going to do that a little bit. Because remember, everything carries information. And we are the ones that we have been waiting for.
So good. Everything you're saying I'm getting bouncy. When I get bouncy, you know this stuff's getting good. When you're talking about purpose, and I want to spend a minute on this because I think sometimes people think purpose is like, oh, I made it on TV. Yay, I'm successful. But the truth is, there's purpose within all of us. And I think we're called in different avenues to shine our purpose. Like my sister is a damn good teacher, and she impacts kids. She's right here. No, and all my teachers, like, oh my gosh, I think of the teachers I had when I was raised in sometimes hardships. That's a huge mission field. And I think of my mother, who's right here, who had a hard upbringing and abuse and all that, but now she's mentoring other women and helping them get into the workforce. And I say this, and I want to edify both of them, because sometimes I think in life, we think purpose is like, let's write a book that's a bestseller. You know what I mean?
First of all,
Sorry.
huge thank you. I love you from afar. I've heard of you so much. Thank you for her. What an outstanding human being. What a moment.
Yeah.
It's really just that. It is, I think that the culture we live in, something happened 5 years ago where I think we had just get a good job, make enough money for yourself. And then there was a shift 5 years ago. There was a shift that said, now everyone's expected to be a millionaire and make it on Oprah's couch.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Overnight.
Yes.
And that's, first of all, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
B, there is an obsession with fame because it's so closely aligned with our sense of worthiness. It cannot come from that place. Unless you anoint yourself worthy here and today, when you get to that point, it will be absolutely empty.
That's right.
So what I discovered is that every time I wanted something and then I got to it, there was a letdown. I was like, oh my God, what now?
Is
I
this
worked
all
my
there
whole
is?
life for it.
I know.
What then? So I think the purpose is the daily thing. What am I aligned with? Do I love to paint? Do I love to love on people? Do I love to serve? Do I love to be in nature? And the purpose doesn't have to even align with the exact title or the job that we do. It's who are you being in this world? There's some people whose purpose is literally to be a light in this world. And they could be an engineer or a priest or a cab driver. That's a purpose that's so much bigger than what we do. And I think we have to stop expecting the next step when I arrive. It just doesn't get there. So a few years ago, I had the dream of being on Oprah. About 15 years ago, because that's what you do when you're a coach. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It was like the next best thing.
Yeah, people are like, what's like the peak?
Right, that
like,
will be
let's
it.
get on Oprah,
And the funny thing is, like, I actually don't even care because I would much rather be in my backyard with my bunnies.
Yeah.
And I love her, but I love who she is. I would love to pick produce with her in her garden.
Right.
But I think I'm learning that I've been on so many of these moments on TV, conferences, speaking, and every time like I just made it, and there's like oh, and you still go home to your clean sheets.
At least they're clean. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So even with this book, this was the book that I just had to write, because these days you don't write a book for, it's like, you want to do it for a platform? No, I'm good. I have that. You want to do it for money? I'm good. It was a passion project. I could not do it. Mm-hmm. And I think when you read it, you really understand it is not my book. And I really mean this, it is our book. Because I think from the people who have shared, what you have shared has moved me to my core. And I don't know if you want to tell them a little bit about what you shared. But when I spoke to you, between her A-list celebrities, interviews,
Stuff.
we had this really big heart-to-heart, all tears, because I knew what was going on, but not all the details. Mm-hmm. Because no one knew.
Right.
And when I heard that, I felt affirmed, and I felt like the world needs to know, because you're one of the nicest, most inspiring, empowering people alive. And we all have to know that we're all going to have a dark night.
We always. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so she's like, do you want to be a part of the project? I'm like, I'll get on Zoom. Sure. It was just like it wasn't just a sure, it was yes, because of who she is. I was like, yes, I will do anything for a woman that lives in integrity and service like you do. But little did I know, she's asking me like, what's your darkest night? What's your darkest moment? Who's had a dark night? Anybody have a dark? Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I feel good. And I think no matter where you're at in life, when you go through something, a loss, a divorce, something tragic, right? Anything, like there's parts of us that are so shameful. We live in shame. And it's like you feel dirty, you feel unclean, you feel like, what will people think, And you don't know who to trust. It's a big one. So when we did our interview, and I remember praying before, and I was like, God, let me be the vessel. Like, let me just, And it's amazing when you do the work. And this is why I told the story in the book, and you'll all read it. It's in the chapter of prayer, okay? But I went there with myself and with her because I'm on the other side of it, right? That's why. And what I talk about and share is when I was going through, my divorce, and how I felt like just so alone. And sorry, it's heartbreaking. You feel all the beliefs, all the limiting, all of it, but you can't say things certain. It's whatever. We don't need to go there. Some of you know what I mean when I say that. But I leaned in to the Holy Spirit. I found another level of prayer and connection that I didn't even know existed. And God gave me so much peace that a part of me that was never alive came alive. And a part of me that was never healed started to heal. And I share it because, and it says in the Bible, it says in James, He opposes the proud and He gives grace to the humble. And I'm not too proud to share painful moments, because at the end of the day, what this is about, and I believe like when we heal, we can heal other people. But we have to be bold enough to actually go through it, that pain, so we can live to tell on the other side of it and inspire another woman. And I told Jasna when the book was coming out, I was like, oh, I still had that moment of like, and I was like, He opposes the proud. It's just like, and it's just the truth. And I had just this, and I share this because social media it's a blessing and a curse. And I've really worked hard to be more transparent on there. But it's like, we all go through stuff. And I just want other people to like lean into whatever they've been avoiding, like I avoided. But that's why I shared it. And prayer is amazing. So try it if you haven't.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes, yeah.
It's for you.
Oh, thank you, love. We just ball together. It's just how it goes.
We always somehow end up crying. You
I
and
know.
I, whether it's happy tears or like I just need.
It's so deep. I just know it's coming. It's just no matter what.
I love it. Total side note, but it's like, from the very first moment, we really never had moments for superficiality. It was like,
Never.
Girl, how you really
Yeah,
feel.
it was like deep dot. And that's what you want. Honestly, I only want a few like that, and then otherwise I'm good. You know what I mean? Like let's just...
And it does matter. Those
It
kind of
does.
connections really build us up. But I think that true testament to what Emily, when you read what she shared, is going to move you so profoundly. It moved me, and I'm so glad that you actually decided to share it, because so many people have told me who've read the books, like, oh my God, I adore her, love her, but I feel like she's untouchable and always strong, and I feel like horrible because I cannot simply be at that level because I'm suffering.
Right.
Like, and when they read the stories, like, I can be Emily. And I think, that's a hashtag. I can be Emily. Ooh.
Yeah. Write that one down. Okay.
It's a very powerful
Yeah.
thing that instead of going into the victimhood, you can find your power. But what you did is surrender.
Surrender. Oof. And let God use you. Like, that's what happens. That's what you did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Over and over
you'll
again.
read multiple times in the story about your dad when he came and got taken away, and you guys will read it in the book, all the stuff, and it's like when you lean in and you deal and you heal, you're compelled to share it.
Yeah, and I think that it's very important to note that this level of chaos and ambiguity that we're feeling in the world right now is not going away. I'm Pollyanna all the way, but I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, politically and otherwise. So this is why, to me, it was a thing that needed to be shared with the world, because we owe it to ourselves to be ready for when the earthquakes of our lives arrive at our doorstep, and they will arrive. Whether it's divorce, or your child, or you lose a job, or an illness, I don't know what it is. There will be a dark night of the soul. It's coming. I guarantee you that. I'm very aligned, very happy right now. I'm no fool.
Yeah.
Can I swear?
Yeah.
Shit happens.
It does. It
so
does.
I have to, in the process, do the work. So when that comes, just like when the pandemic came, I'm like, why is everyone freaking out? Mm-hmm. I really felt ready, and I felt so calm. I'm like, this is nothing. I lived through a war. Why are these people freaking out? They're at home watching Netflix.
Yeah.
And ordering in. All jokes aside, I know the severity of it, but I was like, are they kidding me?
Yeah.
The government is rolling out dollars like it's free candy. Are we living in the same world?
Yeah.
But I think it was a testament to the collective anxiousness that we're all feeling, and we're all feeling it. So coming back home, coming back to purpose, coming back to your faith, whatever that is. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
Celebrate with the fairies in the forest. All I care. You have to find your anchor. Jesus, Allah, whatever faith that you practice, you have to strengthen yourself. You have to fortify yourself, and you do that first and foremost by removing the noise, getting very real with yourself. It's going to get better. It will be all wonderful, and it will be eventually. But right now it sucks, and it's okay to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. I always put on the armor of God every day, and I do the WPP. So read the living word of God and let it speak to me. I pray, and then I praise to get my frequency up and to give thanks. And I feel like that has been like game changer. So try it.
You know what I started doing? So when I'm alone and I'm in the forest, there's going to be like Jasna in the forest.
Yeah, I'm just imagining you like with this cute little forest outfit or nude, or I don't know. Okay, never mind. Okay.
I will sit on a bench. I love you. I will sit on a bench and I'm alone, especially when I'm going through something.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, 3.5 weeks ago, I was like, why am I doing this? It was so stressful. There were like 350 books. They all came with an error. And I paid thousands of dollars. And now I'm not going to have enough books for the launch. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to do this. I don't have to do this. Why am I doing it? So it's hard. So I went in the forest and I sat on the bench. I'm like, God, you and I. And by God, I mean love. So I was raised Muslim, devout Muslim, like going to the mosque and all, the whole thing. And now I'm in high heels and a mini dress.
Yeah.
Go figure. Yeah. Okay, well. But to me, God is love. It is when I hug Morgan and I know that she loves me and I love her, to me, that there's God's presence.
Yeah.
It's my children decorating my high heels with hot glue.
True story.
That is love.
That
so
is
it's those
love.
moments. So when I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm creating space. Guide me. I don't know. This is hard. The hardest thing I've ever done. I don't know how to get through this. Guide me. Be with me. Walk with me. So I say that, but there's a beautiful prayer that Emily says at the beginning of every day that's in the book. And I really think you should all, I just record it and listen to it.
Yeah, totally.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Babe, what's your it factor? What do you think your it factor is?
I love.
Oh.
Profoundly, I love people. And I think that what was so remarkable, very often people will say, you're awfully nice. What's your agenda?
Uh-huh.
I'm like, really? I just love you. I like, how can I be of service? No. Like she's in, like everyone has an angle.
Uh-huh.
I think, who are my people here? They know I don't have an angle. There's like, I just love. And I really, that has been a profound shift. Frankly, if you asked me the same question 10 years ago, it would not have been it.
Yeah.
And I think that I really love who I am. I love you. I love every single human that's here in the room. I bless you. I wish nothing but the best. Because I fully understand that we came from the same place and we're going to the same place. And that is love.
Yeah, beautiful. Where can people find you?
JasnaBurza.com, and I'm on Instagram quite a bit.
Yeah, she's coming back.
Burza. Yeah, I have an amazing team, and occasionally you'll see me frolicking in the forest.
Yeah. And where can they get the book?
Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Target, Walmart, everywhere you get books. Libraries, we have a little delay, so they're coming libraries next week. But I'm really excited because of all of you. We hit the bestseller list in 2 categories and #1 release in 4. So,
well, thank you for being here. I love you.
Love you so much. Thank you for having me. Such an honor.